you ever feel like just one awkward word or inconsiderate action from someone is enough to ruin your entire day? An unfriendly look, an off-key comment, or even just an unexpected inconvenience. It can all leave you feeling like someone else has control over your emotions. But the truth is, no one can control your inner self unless you give them that power. Imagine walking through the world with a mind so calm that no matter how much noise there is outside, you are unshaken. A peace that is not easily shaken by small things. That is not a dream. That is an emotional discipline. An inner discipline that can be achieved with practice. In this episode, I'll explore 10 lessons in emotional transformation, principles that will help you let go of impulsive reactions, diffuse anger, and take steps to regain control of your mind. This isn't about pretending not to feel or forcing yourself to be indifferent. Instead, it's about becoming more resilient, not by avoiding emotions, but by understanding them and consciously choosing your responses. Whether you're dealing with criticism, learning to set boundaries, or wanting to let go of resentment, you'll find practical tools here to keep your peace and live with confidence. By the end of this episode, you will have a mindset and strategies that will help you thrive in the midst of adversity. So, if you're ready to embark on a journey of emotional mastery and live a life where no one else can dictate your mood, start now. Your journey to self-mastery starts here. 1. Give up expecting others to behave like you. Have you ever experienced this feeling? You're always there for others. You listen. You care. You even give of your time and energy. But then, when you need someone, a word, a simple favor, they disappear. You feel disappointed. You think, I would never do that to them. How could they be so heartless? But at that very moment, you're falling into a very common trap, expecting others to live up to your own standards and values. It's a sweet but cruel illusion, because such an expectation is like trying to control the weather. The more you try, the more exhausted and disappointed you become. Each person is a unique world, made up of their own experiences, beliefs, wounds, and priorities. Their actions, while irrational to you, are perfectly reasonable within their life map. When someone hurts you, it's often not a reflection on you, but a reflection on them. And when you try to change them, to mold their behavior to fit your expectations, you not only fail, you lose control of your own emotions. Here's a thought-provoking image. You're walking through the woods, and a gust of wind picks up, whipping leaves down onto your head. Do you get angry at the wind, at the leaves, or do you simply move on, adjusting your hood to the weather? Likewise, when someone else does something that annoys you, instead of trying to fix them, accept that they are living according to their nature, not yours. Here's a concrete example. You have a coworker who constantly interrupts during meetings. Every time. You feel annoyed, frustrated, and wish they would be more considerate. But if you change your perspective, realizing that the behavior is a habit, a reflection of them, not a lack of respect for you as an individual, your negative feelings begin to dissipate. A famous saying of Eastern philosophy reminds us, expectations are the root of all suffering. The more you expect others to behave the same way you do, the more likely you are to be disappointed. And each time you do, you are allowing others to steal your peace, not by their behavior, but by the expectations you place on them. So how do we let go of this expectation? 1. Identify your assumptions. Whenever someone hurts or disappoints you, ask yourself, what did I expect from them? 2. Challenge that belief. Is that expectation realistic? Am I asking them to be a different version of myself? 3. Shift the focus. Instead of trying to change the other person's behavior, ask, how can I stay calm and act in accordance with my values, regardless of whether they change or not? Imagine a life where you are no longer dictated by the actions of others, because you no longer demand that they be like you. Rude stranger, you smile and move on. Family member forgets to text. You are fulfilled. Co-worker acts insensitively. You are grounded. They are them, not you, and that's okay. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean you have to accept bad behavior. It means accepting the fact that you can't control other people, but you can control yourself. Every time you remind yourself, they act according to their nature, not for me, not against me, is one time you free yourself from the shackles of expectation. And in that letting go, you find the most precious thing, inner peace. 2. Give up the need to always be right. Think back to the last time you had an argument with someone. It could have been something as trivial as which route was faster, or it could have been a deeper discussion about a person's outlook on life, how to solve a problem, or the behavior of a loved one. And then, as the words are exchanged, you feel something rise inside you, the need to win. I'm right, they're wrong, they need to understand that. We've all been there, clinging to our views as if we let go, we'll lose our self-worth. But stop and ask yourself, what is really at stake? Does the truth really need to be proven to the end? Or is it the ego that is speaking out, afraid of being hurt if it is seen as wrong? Many times the need to be right comes not from intelligence, but from insecurity. We attach our self-worth to winning a conversation, as if the other person agreeing with us confirms that we are right. But if you have to trade peace for the right, is it worth it? A powerful question. Do you want to be right or do you want peace? Many arguments get us nowhere other than creating a rift in our relationship and an internal struggle. Letting go of the need to be right doesn't mean you've lost. It means you're choosing not to get caught up in that energy-sapping game anymore. Imagine this. Someone makes an unjust accusation against you. Naturally, you want to argue, explain, and clarify. But before you speak up, ask yourself, does this really affect my values? Will this argument change anything important? Most of the time, the answer is no. Instead of reacting, you can simply say, I see your point, and leave it at that. This doesn't make you weak. On the contrary, it shows a remarkable inner strength. You're strong enough not to need validation, clear enough not to need proof. Lao Tzu once wrote, "Who clings to opinions never grows up." Letting go of the need to be right is not surrender but a deliberate choice. Choosing serenity over competition, choosing awareness over impulsive reaction. So how do you practice this? 1. Pause before you react. Feel like arguing? Take a breath. Delay your reaction. Ask yourself, am I defending my right or am I defending my ego? 2. Seek understanding, not victory. Instead of trying to beat the other person, ask them, what makes you feel that way? Sometimes empathy resolves more than argument. 3. Pick your battles. Not every conversation is worth your energy. Let reason guide you, not your ego. Over time, you'll notice something magical. As you lose the obsession with being right, you become more relaxed, listen more, and understand others more deeply. Conversations become less confrontational, and your mind is freed from the pressure to win. Remember, your value is not in being right, but in being calm, understanding, and mindful. And every time you choose silence over argument, you're not just protecting the relationship, you're protecting your inner freedom. 3. Realize your response is your choice. Picture this. You're having a peaceful morning, a hot cup of coffee in your hand, the sun quietly filtering through the trees. Then, suddenly, someone says something mean, acts rudely, or does something that upsets you. Anger rises and the peace is gone. You think, they ruined my day. But the truth is, it wasn't them. You let it happen. Your emotions are your responsibility. No one can control your emotions unless you allow them to. It's a simple but powerful truth. The world will always be filled with unexpected people and events, but how you react to them, that's your choice. Imagine you're wearing noise-cancelling headphones in the middle of a busy city. The honking cars and the chattering people are all still going on, but they don't affect you. Emotional mastery is like that. You don't have to let the noise of others intrude on your inner self. Viktor Frankl, a physician and philosopher who survived a concentration camp, wrote, "Between stimulus and response lies a space. In that space we have the choice of response, and in the response lies our growth and our freedom." The next time someone cuts you off, drives recklessly, or judges you unfairly, you have a choice: react immediately or stop and observe. In that brief moment, if you stop, you are empowering yourself, choosing calm over chaos, stability over impulsiveness. Here's a familiar example. In a meeting, your coworker dismisses an idea you just shared. Instead of fighting back or holding on to your frustration for the rest of the day, you might stop and ask yourself, does this really say anything about me, or is it just a reflection of their pressure and subjective views? Shifting your perspective like this helps you detoxify emotionally, not letting other people's behaviors define you. This doesn't mean you have to suppress your emotions. Anger, hurt, or frustration, they're all natural emotions. But you don't have to let them guide you. Emotions are echoes, not maps. And here's how you can start practicing. 1. Stop and recognize your emotions. When you feel triggered, name them. I am angry, I am frustrated. Simply doing this can slow down the spiral of reactivity. 2. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Is it because of what happened, or is it because of how I'm interpreting it? This is the moment to move from instinct to reason. 3. Choose your response based on your values. Ask yourself, how do I want to act so that I have no regrets? What will bring me lasting peace rather than temporary satisfaction? Imagine a life where you walk through life without anyone being able to touch your inner peace. A rude stranger, a hasty criticism, an inconvenience, all become small compared to the inner strength you are cultivating every day. In any situation, you always have a choice. Let others control your mood or take the wheel yourself. And when you choose stillness, you not only attain peace, you have entered the threshold of true freedom. 4. Protect your life energy by setting boundaries. Imagine this. You're in the middle of a busy day, trying to finish up some unfinished work. The phone rings. A friend calls to ask for help with something they could totally do themselves. Or a coworker throws a last-minute task at you, assuming you'll take care of it like you always do. You feel awkward. You can't bear to say no, but inside you start to feel tired, frustrated, and slowly losing control of your time, energy, and emotions. Why is it so hard to say no? Because we often confuse kindness with self-sacrifice. We fear being judged as selfish, as cold. But the truth is, when you don't know your boundaries, others won't know when to stop. And every time you push yourself to take on more work, more emotions, more responsibilities that don't belong to you, you drain your life energy. A simple but thought-provoking truth. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Kindness is not about always saying yes to others, but about knowing when to say yes to yourself. Boundaries aren't fences, they're bridges of respect. They show others you value yourself and teach them how to do the same. Here's an example. You often get late-night text messages and phone calls from friends asking for advice. You want to help, but you also feel exhausted. Over time you start to feel annoyed, even avoid them. But instead of silently enduring or sulking, you could say, I really value this relationship, but evenings are when I need to rest and recharge. I'll always be available to talk at a more appropriate time. A gentle, clear, loving, but also very definitive refusal. Philosopher Epictetus once said, freedom is living as we choose without being forced by external circumstances. Setting boundaries is the path to that freedom. Here's how to get started. 1. Be honest and clear. Communicate directly without beating around the bush or making excuses. People may not like your boundaries, but they will respect you if you are consistent. 2. Use I language instead of you. Say, I need some quiet time after work, instead of, you tire me out. That small distinction helps you stay calm and avoid putting the other person in a confrontational position. 3. Be firm with your boundaries. Not everyone is comfortable with a self-protective version of you, but being firm is how you teach others to take you seriously. Lao Tzu once said, know when to stop and you won't get into trouble. Boundaries are about knowing when to stop, not letting ourselves get caught up in things that drain us, not letting seemingly small things slowly eat away at our inner strength. And you'll see the magic. As you respect your own boundaries, you begin to live a life of greater ease, clarity, and deeper connection with yourself and with others. You don't have to be available to be loved. You just have to be yourself, and you deserve to be protected. 5. Let go of dependence on other people's opinions. You share a passionate idea, you put your heart out there, but instead of support, you get a blank stare or a snide comment. That idea seems unusual, and just like that, your enthusiasm starts to waver. One word, one look, one frown, it's enough to make you start doubting yourself. The question is, why are these opinions so powerful? Because from a very early age, we are taught that the approval of others is the measure of our worth. We grow up feeling that we have to please to be approved of, to be right, in order to be loved. And then, even as we grow up, we still carry a fragile soul, easily hurt by a criticism, easily provoked by a compliment. We let others become a mirror reflecting our worth, forgetting the most important mirror is our own mind. True freedom begins when you understand that. You are not what other people think. You are what you know about yourself. Everyone sees the world through a unique lens, colored by their own life experiences, fears, insecurities, or expectations. When someone judges you, it's a statement about their inner world, not the truth about you. And if you let those words guide you, you're handing the wheel of your life over to someone else. Marcus Aurelius once reminded, your worth does not depend on what other people think, and no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Imagine you're wearing an outfit you love, feeling confident, and then someone says, that looks different. You can let that ruin your day, or you can smile and think, maybe our tastes are different. And that's okay, because you don't live to fit in with everyone. You live to be true to yourself. So how do you practice detachment from other people's opinions? 1. Ask again, why does this bother me? Where does the hurt come from? What are you looking for in this person that you are not giving to yourself? 2. Look at your inner values. What values do you live by? What do you cherish within yourself? Let those be your inner compass, not the words of others. 3. Visualize words as dry leaves floating in the water. They are present, but there is no need to cling to them. Let them pass, gently. Lao Tzu once wrote, who lives to please people will live in chains all his life. So, live like a pine tree on a high mountain. Even if the wind changes direction, the tree will still stand firm, because its roots are not rooted in recognition, but in true value. Letting go of other people's opinions is not about being cold. It's about keeping your inner clarity and stability, so you don't get swept away by the turbulent waves out there. And when you do that, you will see, I don't need anyone to understand me, to live authentically. I just need to be quiet enough to listen to myself. 6. Don't let other people's words define your worth. You've just shared an idea you've been thinking about for a while. You're excited, partly because you believe in what you're saying, and partly because you're hoping for recognition. Then, someone interrupts you with a cold comment. That sounds a bit naive. Just a few short words, but they cut like a knife into your self-esteem. Your confidence that was shining brightly suddenly fades. You begin to doubt yourself. Why can a careless word stir up the inner turmoil so much? Because, like many people, you have grown accustomed to living in dependence on the judgment of others. You have given them a quiet power, the power to define your worth. But the truth is, your worth is not in praise, nor is it eroded by criticism. It is in you, in your character, in your effort, in your character, and no one can touch it unless you are willing to give it away. Marcus Aurelius once wrote something profound. It's strange we love ourselves more than anyone else but care more about other people's opinions than our own. That is the paradox of modern life. We live to be liked, to be accepted, to the point of losing acceptance from within. But what if you took a step back? What if you started to differentiate between constructive feedback and meaningless judgment? For example, a co-worker gives you blunt but unconstructive feedback. You can react harshly, or you can calmly think, "That's just my opinion. It doesn't define my values. I choose to keep what's useful and let go of the rest." When you do that, you take back control of your life. Remember, other people's words are their own echoes, filtered through their biases, fears, fatigue, or unfulfilled expectations. They say more about them than they do about you. Here's how to start letting go of the shackles of people's words. 1. Pause before you react. If someone says something hurtful, don't immediately respond. Take a breath and give yourself some space to observe your emotions. 2. Distinguish between facts and opinions. Ask, is this true? Is it worth my while? Most of the time you'll find it's just an opinion, nothing more. 3. Remind yourself, my worth doesn't need anyone's validation. You are not a product of nods or headshakes. You are you. Enough, even when no one else is. The philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "Care too much about what other people think and you will forever be their prisoner." Letting go of the need for validation doesn't make you cold. It makes you warm in a steady way, because you're no longer dependent on emotional waves coming from the outside. Next time someone makes you feel like you're not good enough, stop and ask yourself, am I believing in the truth, or am I believing in an unnecessary opinion? And then come back to what you know to be true. You don't need to be defined, because you are already a valuable human being. 7. Gratitude, the most profound way to resolve anger. Imagine a day full of chaos. You wake up late, work piles up, strangers are rude, a friend is critical. You feel like the universe is against you. Anger builds up, not a lot, but enough to weigh down your day. Amidst all these inconveniences, have you ever wondered, at this point, what do I have to be grateful for? That question may seem out of place in the middle of a bad day, but it's the key to getting out of an emotional spiral. Because there is a truth that every philosopher, every spiritualist, every person who has suffered and recovered realizes. You can't feel angry and grateful at the same time. These two emotions cannot coexist in the same conscious mind. When you truly touch gratitude, anger automatically dissolves like salt in water. Gratitude is not a fancy mental act. It is a life skill. It is a way for you to proactively change your perspective, to hit the reset button on your emotional system. For example, you are stuck in traffic, late for an important meeting. Instead of pounding the steering wheel and complaining about life, you can close your eyes for a second and think, I am still alive, still have opportunities, have this car, have this job, and the lesson of patience is right here. It's not blind optimism, it's a conscious choice. Philosopher Cicero once said, "Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the mother of all virtues." Because when you are truly grateful, you no longer need to hold on to anger, bitterness, or blame. You no longer fight reality, but accept it as part of the journey of growth. So how do you practice gratitude when life isn't going your way? 1. Pause and ask yourself, what, no matter how small, am I grateful for right now? It could be a friend who listens, a warm meal, or a ray of sunshine through the window. 2. Take action. Write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. They may be small, but big changes start with small details. 3. Use gratitude to reframe the situation. When someone makes you angry, try thinking, I am grateful for the opportunity to practice calmness. I am grateful because this shows that I am still learning to love myself. Gratitude doesn't erase the fact that you've experienced something unpleasant. It just helps you not let it control your entire inner life. And as you cultivate gratitude as a habit, you'll find yourself reacting less, complaining less, and feeling lighter. You'll begin to live with a kind of quiet strength, not because life is less volatile, but because you're more stable. Because in the end, peace doesn't come from having everything go right. Peace comes from still seeing the beauty in the imperfections. 8. Learn the art of letting go to become lighter, stronger. Imagine you are holding a burning coal. Hot, burning. You hold it tight because you are angry, you want to throw it at the person who hurt you. But while you wait for the right moment to retaliate, the coal continues to burn your own hand. Anger, resentment, grief, memories of betrayal, conversations you still replay in your head, words left unsaid, and things you said that you now wish you could take back. You hold them as if they were a part of you, but the more you hold them, the heavier you become. And the more you hold on, the further you are from peace. Letting go. It sounds weak, resigned, but in Stoicism, letting go is the most powerful action. Not because you can't hold on, but because you realize that holding on to something that cannot be changed is asking for suffering. Buddha once said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And Marcus Aurelius advised, do not let your mind be troubled by that which is beyond your control. Letting go doesn't mean condoning the wrong or denying the feeling. It means I choose not to let it control me anymore. Think back to the last time you were deeply hurt. Maybe someone betrayed your trust, said something that hurt you, or simply had an outcome that didn't go as planned. How much time did you spend ruminating, thinking, what ifs, replaying hundreds of revenge scenarios in your head? Now ask again, do all those thoughts make me feel better? If the answer is no, then it's time to practice the ultimate art, letting go. So how? 1. Acknowledge your feelings. Letting go doesn't mean ignoring the anger or sadness. Name it, allow it to exist, but don't build a tent in it. 2. Look at reality. What can you control? You can't control other people's behavior, but you can control how you go about your life. 3. Ask liberating questions. What am I holding on to this for? What would happen if I chose to let it go? Who would I become if I didn't carry this hurt anymore? Letting go is an act of sovereignty. It is an inner declaration that I choose freedom, not burden. Imagine a balloon. You hold on to the string, trying to hold on tight, even though your hand hurts. But when you open your hand, the balloon flies away, and you notice the relief is immediate. Letting go doesn't weaken you. On the contrary, it makes you stronger than any reaction, because you no longer live to fight, you live to move forward. So, there you have it, 10 lessons, not recipes for running away from your emotions, but tools for living with them. Each lesson is a step back to your inner power, a place that no one can touch, where you can choose calmness, not reaction. You can't change other people. You can't control life, but you can always control yourself. And in that journey, every time you choose silence over anger, choose letting go over holding on, choose gratitude over resentment, every time you become freer. True freedom, not the absence of hardship, but no matter how difficult it is, you still do not lose your inner peace. 9. See criticism as an opportunity to grow. You've just poured your heart and soul into a presentation, a creative product, or simply an idea you believe in. Then someone, a co-worker, a friend, or even a family member, says, "I think you could do better." Or worse, "That doesn't sound like anything special." What's your first reaction? Defensiveness, anger, hurt. You feel like a part of you has been rejected. But pause there. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what can this teach me? Because in every criticism, whether skillful or clumsy, well-intentioned or not, lies an opportunity for growth. When you peel away the layers of hurt feelings, you will see. Criticism is not a wound, it is a mirror that helps you see what you cannot see from the inside. Of course, not all criticism is true. Some are spoken out of jealousy, indifference, or ignorance. But that doesn't take away from the value of stopping to listen. Imagine this. You're preparing a presentation, and a colleague suggests that your introduction isn't strong enough. You might think they're trying to pick a fight, or you might think, maybe they're right. I can make it more edgy. The difference is not who is right or wrong, but whether you have the courage to learn instead of reacting. There is a saying worth pondering. Criticism is like rain. If you take it properly, it helps you grow. So how do we accept criticism mindfully? 1. Pause your emotions. Don't respond immediately. When you're criticized, take a breath and let the initial emotion pass. Reacting in the heat of the moment usually doesn't represent your best self. 2. Evaluate the speaker. Do they really understand you and care about you? Are they giving constructive feedback? If so, listen more closely. If not, take what is useful and let go of the rest. 3. Look for the lesson behind the words. Even a clumsy criticism can contain a valuable message. You need to prepare better. You lacked clarity somewhere, or you are growing unevenly. Epictetus once said, "If someone criticizes you, don't be quick to justify. Instead, think, they don't know about my worst mistakes." A brave self-mockery, and a gentle, non-defensive way of living, just learning and evolving. Criticism is not the enemy, it is your fragile ego that makes it dangerous. As you grow older, you will realize other people's judgment does not define you, but how you react to it can. And if you are calm enough to listen, sober enough to analyze, and humble enough to change, even criticism becomes a teacher. 10. Respond with silence, not anger. You've probably been in this situation before. Someone, a co-worker, a family member, or even a stranger, says something harsh, unreasonable, or even mean. Your blood boils as you listen. Your mind races with reactions. What to say, to fight back, to prove that you're not to be trifled with, to get even. It's instinct. It's the defensive reflex of a wounded ego. But stop just for a breath and ask yourself, where will this reaction take me? Am I choosing to show strength, or am I simply being led by emotion? The truth is, anger always demands a response. It feeds on the energy you give it. And the way you fuel someone else's anger is by fueling your own. But what if you don't respond? What if you just stay silent? Not cold, not indifferent, but purposeful silence. Powerful silence. Silence is a choice, and sometimes it's the strongest choice. In Stoic philosophy, calmness in the face of provocation is not only a sign of self-mastery, it is a true victory, because you don't lose yourself. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best answer to anger is silence." It seems simple, but when you put it into practice in real situations, you'll see that it requires a kind of invisible strength. That strength doesn't come from muscles or words, but from self-mastery. When someone gets angry, they're trying to pull you into their emotional space, a place of chaos, impulsiveness, and lack of clarity. If you go in there, you're letting them lead the way. But if you stay silent, you're choosing not to play their game. And that's when you hold your inner self like an impregnable fortress. Silence is not defeat. Silence is reserving the right to respond until a more enlightened moment. Imagine a meeting where someone bluntly dismisses your work in front of everyone. Your anger rises, and you want to say something sharp to turn the tables, but instead of immediately responding, you pause, look at them, smile, and say, "Nothing." Silence in that moment is not surrender. Silence is a declaration that, "I don't need to shout to prove my worth." So how do you practice the art of silence? 1. Recognize your trigger moments. The next time you feel your heart racing, your blood boiling, your voice rising, that's when you need to stop, not to suppress it, but to observe yourself. 2. Take a half step back internally. Imagine yourself standing on the sidelines of the conversation, observing the other person and yourself from the outside. This distanced view will help you retain your power of choice. 3. Ask, is this answer necessary? If what you are about to say is just to knock out the other person, to win or to soothe a bruised ego, stop. If there is nothing to lose by not saying anything, choose silence. 4. When you need to speak, let your words come from calm, not from pain. Silence does not mean you never speak, but when you do speak, let each word be a pebble dropped into a calm pond, clear, slow, and weighty. Silence is not absence. Silence is presence, steadfast. In an age where everyone wants to have the last word, everyone wants to be heard, the person who knows when to be silent is the one who gets the most attention. You won't remember the arguments you won, but you will always remember the times you kept your cool when you had every right to be angry. And that is the most beautiful victory. You've just gone through 10 lessons, not as things to memorize, but as mirrors to yourself. They are not tools for you to control the world. They are guides for you to control yourself. Because life, whether you like it or not, will always have people who will disappoint you. There will always be someone who disagrees, who doesn't respect, who doesn't understand. And there will be moments when you feel small, angry, want to rebel, want to give up. But it's in those moments, how you react, that shapes who you become. You can let others drag you into their chaos, or you can maintain your composure, like a lake unruffled by the sound of falling rocks. Stoicism never taught you to be an emotionless machine. It taught you to recognize your emotions, but not be controlled by them. It taught you to live deeply without fear of being hurt, to be strong but not to be forced, and most importantly, Stoicism reminds you that the greatest freedom lies not in having everything go your way. It lies in this: no matter what happens, you choose your attitude. So, keep living, not to avoid difficulties, but to walk through them with a stronger inner self each day. Keep practicing, not to become someone else, but to return to being yourself, the calmest, clearest, and most free version. And if ever you forget the way, just remember one thing: between stimulus and response, there is always a gap. In that gap, there is you.